Hello and welcome to the Culture Nerd Podcast. This week is going to actually be episode 16, even though it's technically week 15 of 2023. As you know, last week we did 2 episodes for your convenience, so we're kind of off on the count, but whatever. This week, we're actually going to talk about the massive Star Wars weekend that we had thanks to Star Wars Celebration in the UK. Because of this, we now know a handful of new movies, new projects, new shows, everything that you could ever want as a Star Wars fan. And let's talk about it because there's a lot of stuff to be excited about. And I personally am very excited. So here we go.
It's Star Wars time.
It's Star Wars time. I was actually thinking about changing the intro to do a Star Wars theme song with it just because I wanted to, but I think that'd be a little too much. We do that on special occasions, but
I think we should have a Star Wars sting, but that's a conversation for another day.
I think I'll just make stings for all of them. I'll make a Batman sting, a Star Wars sting, a
Evangelion theme. We'll get a Trigun theme.
We really should do an Evangelion episode. We need to talk more about anime. Speaking of anime, Demon Slayer came back.
Where? Do I go watch it on Hulu? Where are you watching it? I didn't even know. I thought I watched 3 other things yesterday. That's why I didn't see it.
The premiere was yesterday. It was like an hour long. It was pretty great. It was essentially the movie that they released earlier this year. That's what we got for the first episode, which is fine. Gundam,
the movie that just released in theaters right now, or the fire arc on the train?
No, the movie that just released in theaters a few weeks ago. That was the premiere.
Got it. Cool.
Yeah. And then Gundam, Witch from Mercury, new episode, new season, new intro, new everything. It takes place 2 weeks after the first season, and it's like, oh no, everyone's still mad at me because I murdered people. Like it's pretty good. You can tell that this show is going to get dark, very quickly, and I'm really happy about it. And I've been building my little Gundam. I'm having fun with that. I got much better at these than when we were kids. I actually ink the lines now.
Yeah, I'm sure you have adult hand-eye coordination and are able to do this stuff much better.
Yeah, and I've got like markers and pens and paint and all this fun stuff. All the tools that I wish I had when I was like 14 when we first started doing this stuff.
So here's my first question for you, because I'm really excited to get into Star Wars town, and I feel like there's a lot of negativity towards Star Wars right now, and I feel like it should only be thrown at some projects. I'm still enjoy Star Wars as a brand, and am happy that we are getting more Star Wars. Okay, so some of these things I think people knew about. We knew that these projects were coming. But did everyone expect that this much information was going to come out at Star Wars Celebration UK?
I did. I mean, I legitimately did. People ask me, what do you expect? I'm like, I expect a trailer, some like 2 or 3 new movie announcements of stuff that we already knew, and a handful of other things. Like I was not surprised. I was just happy that they were confirmed. I was actually on the socials the other day, and I mentioned that like 4 years ago, or not 4 years, maybe when they were filming Book of Boba Fett and they announced the Ahsoka show, I was told by one of my contacts in the special effects team that they were literally gearing all these shows toward a crossover movie. They kind of implied that it was going to be a Disney Plus movie. Turns out it's not a Disney Plus movie. Turns out it's a very big theatrical movie, which is even better for me. So that was cool getting that confirmed, and that Dave Filoni is directing it. That's fantastic.
What a huge undertaking. I guess throw the spoilers thing up, because if we're going to talk Star Wars,
we're going to talk about everything. We're going to talk about everything.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
And if you're not caught up to date with Mandalorian, maybe you skip ahead a little bit till we get to another topic. Do you think that movie is that Mandalorian war? Do you think that's what we're building up towards? Do you think it's all the shows culminate in that? Because that's where it feels like it's going to.
I was told a year and a half ago and some change, or whatever it was, that the culmination show was essentially going to be the big showdown between the new Empire / the dawn of the First Order and all the plot lines culminating here. So the fact that we have seeds being set in Ahsoka, we have seeds being set in Book of Boba Fett, actually had some seeds there too, with the big turf wars that are now occurring with the underworld because the power vacuum because of the Empire's gone. And then you have quite literally the Mandalorian season 3, which is dealing with the rise of the Mandalorian army and the big shocker that Moff Gideon did not make it to trial. And then you have all the other subplots with what they were actually doing. And a lot of people were like, oh, this episode sucks. They spent a half an hour explaining the cloning stuff. But that's a vital episode just as much as the Mandalorian episode was for the Boba Fett series. Like, they're placing story bits. They're building something huge coming up. And these next 2 episodes of the Mandalorian, this week and next week, the finale, you're going to see exactly what they're gearing toward with the return of Moff Gideon and possibly even a cameo of Thrawn and a few others. This is going to be like, a lot of people have complained that this season has been a lot of filler, and every season is filler. That's how Mandalorian is. It's a Western show. It's essentially like that old show Kung Fu, where he's like David Carradine's running around the desert.
I wish it was more Kung Fu, though. This season is the first season that has felt a little video gamey to me, where Mandalorian's telling this is it happened in the later Star Wars movies as well. I really dislike when they write action sequences as video game dialogue. This season has been a lot of like, we got to get down there and find this thing. I'll park right here and we'll do this other thing. Watch out for this thing. It's like, no. What made The Mandalorian so special early on is that there was none of that talk. And we got to go back to that somehow. And I don't know if we can.
Yeah. It's such a weird spot for the show, but I think that the feedback from this season is going to probably cater a lot to what's going forward. And I think they're going to learn a lot from this. Because this was also a lot of the feedback that they got with the other shows, they're adapting to as well.
Okay, so here's my next question for you. How do you want to break down all this news? Because the movie stuff is where I'm really excited to talk about, but there's so much Disney Plus television content coming out. Maybe we hit that first?
I'm just going to actually go through it piece by piece on the big ones. The first thing that they did with the announcements of the movies and everything in between, because it's all connected, they established firmly the brand new Star Wars timeline, and they kind of explained what this all means. And with that, then they kind of tied in how the movies work. So first and foremost, you now have the rise of the Empire. That is essentially the bridging point between episode 3 and episode 4. Everything that takes place during that is the rise of the Empire. The fall of the Jedi is episodes 1, 2, and 3. The Age of Rebellion is everything of the old trilogy. The New Republic is everything that's currently existing in the Mandalorian verse. The First Order is the sequel trilogy. The New Jedi Order is the new movie with Rey. And now the High Republic, the Old Republic, those are other add-on content that's essentially happening with these shows, with the Acolyte taking place during the Old Republic, or the High Republic, I think, High Republic. And then the Dawn of the Jedi was the big announcement that stopped everyone in their tracks. And that was the announcement that the director, who DC has actually tapped for Swamp Thing, is directing a movie about the dawn of the Jedi, like quite literally the beginning of everything. And it allegedly takes place, but
you're talking about the movie. I'm so happy that we have a timeline where other directors who don't want to deal with the canon this way can go, I want to make a movie here about this character. And they'll go, great. This is all you need to know. Do whatever you want. That's so important because there's so many tales to be told. We can now, and you can very see where Dave Theonius throws all of his darts. Now we can have other people fill into those other spots. Okay, continue.
Exactly, yeah. So James Mangold, the guy we were talking about who directed Logan, directed the new Indiana Jones movie, and they also dropped a trailer for that too, and it looks even better than the first trailer. Like, I'm all in this movie. They officially announced that he'll be directing a new Star Wars film set 25,000 years before Episode 4. This story, they say it's kind of going to be like a biblical tale of Star Wars, where it's going to be like during the ancient times when the Force is not a thing yet, and the first Jedi who discovers the Force becomes the first wielder and starts the universe in a new direction.
He's
That is
going to
be
be a
this movie, and
space
it sounds
Jesus. He's going to be
yeah,
a
it's
guy,
gonna be
and they're
weird.
like, "How are you doing these things?" And he goes, "Because I am the way, and you're going to follow me because I'm a." Now, I wonder if he gets a lightsaber or not, but it's going to be a space Jesus movie, which is going to be great.
I hope that he does, solely because the kyber crystals and the Force go hand in hand. So I believe that this guy's going to develop the Force for the first time, get a kyber crystal, and then they're going to finally explain what these things are to people who don't know the lore. They're going to explain that the color of the kyber crystal reflects on the soul and the user. They're going to explain that the blade itself is weighted based on the Force and the user. Like, they're going to go through. I hope that Mangold. It's a lot to ask for, but I hope that he pulls off something truly spectacular, or they give him a friggin' trilogy. I don't care, but I am all for this, because this was a project that initially the D&D fellas from Game of Thrones were initially going to tackle, and they passed on it. They left. They moved on, and I like that Mangold is taking this project, because this project should exist, and I'm all for it.
I like them, when you first saw Star Wars and you see Obi-Wan Kenobi's lightsaber, it's almost like Excalibur, right? Because there's a lineage to it, and they've continued that lineage. And I really like the idea that they're going to resonate with fans, that lightsabers are something special and unique, not in that Harry Potter way, but just in like, it's more than just a laser sword.
Yeah. And I think what I always loved about Star Wars was that something that they never really touched on until more so recently, thanks to The Mandalorian, that you said before, Dave Filoni brought back the notion that the lightsabers have weight to them, especially when they were showing that Mando was trying to use the dark saber for the first time, and the thing was heavy. I liked that they finally brought that they finally outright said it, because George Lucas talked about it a lot in Episode 4, and that's why Obi-Wan was so slow with it, and why Vader was so slow with it, because the Force has weight. And then they kind of touched on it in the second and third movie. They didn't really touch on it at all in the prequels, because everyone was Force using and willy-nilly. And the only people that used lightsabers in the sequel trilogy were Rey, Finn, and Kylo. And
maybe
Rey,
that explains why Finn right, but maybe that explains why Finn was not good with it.
Yeah, maybe. And they even kind of like hinted at that Finn himself was a Force user and he didn't realize it. So I like the idea that they're finally going to explain something.
But isn't that the point of Star Wars? The whole rebellion says, "May the Force be with you." Even if they don't believe in it, they do believe that people tap into it. Like, it is a thing that people say to each other.
Yeah, it is. But I don't know. It's a thing, man. But as the announcements go on.
Well, I was about to say, I'm really excited that Rey gets another movie, that we get to spend more time with Rey, and Rey can justify herself. Let's talk about a Finn movie and put a big question mark in it, okay? Because I would love to talk about that as well.
So the announcement came that the big three that they made. This second announcement was a follow-up with Daisy Ridley returning as Rey. The film is set 15 years after the Rise of Skywalker. It's going to follow Rey as she's rebuilding the Jedi Order. The director is going to be Academy Award winner, and I'm going to say her name wrong, and I'm sorry, Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy. She is known for directing Miss Marvel, Saving Face, and a few other things. She is directing essentially what very well could be Episode 10 here, because this movie is the next follow-up. It's the big one, and it, like I said, it takes place with Rey rebuilding the Jedi Order. And the day that they made this announcement, Twitter was trending Finn, because they wanted to know if John Boyega is returning as Finn, because in Rise of Skywalker it was heavily hinted at that he had now become Force sensitive, and that he was potentially going to be a Jedi. And if they bring him back and they make him a Jedi, that justifies all of his lack of character arc that they had in those three movies.
They're going to have to. And I know that
they have to.
I wish that they had more money to do something with him, but I don't think they will. And to make them the official Batman Robin duo, which they should have been always, that they took away from, which we never got because of multiple directors, multiple storylines, multiple plot points having to be hit. I would love for any redemption of him in each other's stories more than him showing up in a plane and being like, all right, off on another adventure. I would love for him to just even have some part of it and to see what his lightsaber looks like and to see how that relationship, because the question is, where does their relationship lie now?
Yeah. I mean, he was friend zoned very early in the Star Wars movies, and I'm fine with that. Like, right? I mean, I don't think that Rey and Finn should have been a thing, but I do think that they are kindred spirits and they do need to move forward as such. And I want to see this character get his due diligence. I want to see him with a lightsaber. I would love to see him with like a purple lightsaber too. Just like give him a purple lightsaber, right? Or I mean, because we know that Finn, he does straddle the line of his passions and his anger. So it would kind of make sense that he would have that instead of like a blue one or a green one. And since Rey is taking on the Yellow Guardian saber, I would love to see some more other stuff canonized. Maybe we get the orange saber, or the magenta ones, or the pinks and the
Can we talk
soft blues, like those ones. I would love to see the rest of those.
Let's talk about Rey as the mentor and also as like she's not only the teacher, but she's going to be the Dumbledore of whatever this school is. What do you think she teaches the kids? Do you think she teaches them lightning? Because she can kind of do everything. That was the big reveal of the last movie is she will walk the path of Skywalker, but she can kind of do it all.
Yeah. She was a very unique character because in the last movie she was revealed that she was trained by the Skywalkers, by Luke and Leia. She has the old Jedi texts from the original Jedi, which is probably how they're going to tie that movie in as well, with the James Mangold guy being the guy who writes the books, and then she now has the books. But it was also revealed that she was the offspring of Palpatine's clone, and that Palpatine's main goal was her birth, being a dyad of the Force, so he could possess her body and become all powerful again. So she is of dark bloodline, but was trained in the light. So she kind of walks the gray Jedi path. So I would like to see her teaching essentially what Luke started, right? Luke was basically saying that the Jedi are fallen, the Jedi are broken. But then he kind of realizes, no, I'm the one who's broken.
Taylor, I have a crazy idea. And you tell me if this is doable, okay? But this might be the most crazy idea. Because of Harry Potter, is there any chance that she would teach a Jedi to use negative feelings, to tap into those things, but to not cross the line? Can you be?
Yeah,
can
like
you
a,
be?
like
Could
a proper
you be?
gray Jedi.
Well, I mean, like a red lightsaber and the whole 9 yards, all the stuff, choking people and stuff like that. But almost like in Harry Potter, where like, oh, your mind is better suited for this or better suited for this. Maybe there's a person she's like, just tap into that anger, but you just can't push it to a 10.
Maybe. I mean, realistically, it's always that possibility where instead of like ostracizing these people with using the dark side, she teaches them the better way. And I could see that being the real thing where, okay, you have more passion, you have more anger. So instead of teaching you the strict dogma of the light side, why don't I teach you the path of the gray? So you can utilize those passions, but also not succumb to them.
And also, we've never had a training montage where someone shows us how they train to jump a story off a building. You know what I mean? Like all the stuff Obi-Wan, like they talked about, oh, you know what else we haven't seen in movies? Which again reminds me of Harry Potter, sadly. We've never seen the Jedi trials. We've talked about them, right? Like, is there an obstacle course that they do? Do they do like an American Ninja Warrior?
Well, I mean, we've kind of seen these things in their own ways. I mean, we saw that part of Luke's Jedi trials was going to that dark cave. That was part of it. So we know that some of the trials exist in that capacity.
I always interpreted those. I guess you're right. Yoda did send him. I always interpret those as personal dilemmas, but no, Yoda knew what was going on. Yoda's like, no, you got to go down there by yourself. You won't need your weapons.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's very interesting what we're going to potentially see here. And I'm kind of all for it because I love, and I've said it before, I love Star Wars as a whole. And even if the stuff that I don't agree with, I still tune in for it because it's still Star Wars. So I don't know. I'm not like a Star Wars shill. I am very hypercritical of certain things, but I still love I love what we get.
I agree with you. And I think what it means is that whatever these movies are, they cannot be monsters of the week like these TV
Yeah.
shows. These need to be cinematic events. John Williams will come back and do another song, you guys, okay? But you need to present him with the material that's worth his time. And I
Yeah.
think if they can put those pieces together, especially with Ray, I really like Ray as a character.
Ray got interesting when the story ended.
Right.
And I'm really excited to see where they take her because she has a lot of potential. I mean, she was built as a diet of the Force. She was made to balance the darkness of Kylo Ren. And now that Kylo put his life force into her to keep her alive, you could do some fun stuff with that. And you could also do a lot of fun stuff with the idea that because she is all the Jedi and she can commune with the Jedi, you could literally have like lightsaber training class with Force Ghost Luke, or lightsaber or like Force Lightning class with Kylo Ren. Like you can literally.
Real talk though, I think she needs a double-sided lightsaber.
She was supposed to get one, and I want her to have one.
Of all characters, she was so good with her staff. It made no sense to me that they gave her a regular sword. It was like, no, she was already good at that. Just put some blades on the end of it.
They were supposed to actually. They were actually legitimately supposed to give her a double-bladed saber, and they decided. I guess J.J. Abrams decided that the best course of action was not to give her that saber and to rebuild the Skywalker saber for the story. But I still think that her handmade saber, the one that we got at the end of the movie, she should like reveal that she made the second half and then has like two sabers that put into one. Like that's what she should have.
Yeah, for sure. Why doesn't she not have two sabers? Yeah. Okay. I like Ray. I'm that news all made me happy. I was not mad about any of that stuff. What other cinematic stuff did they announce?
The last bit, we already talked about it. We had the super prequel movie. We had the Mandalorian crossover movie, and then the Rey sequel. Those are the three movies that we get. The other little tidbits they kind of announced on the side was Taika Waititi's Star Wars film is still in production, but it's not really. It's still happening. But the Rian Johnson trilogy that was announced right at the time he did the Last Jedi, that is firmly just at a standstill. It's not going anywhere, and it's probably because of his commitments to his Knives Out movies. But
that's not why. He did something interesting with Star Wars and everyone lost their shit over it, and he's never coming back is what that means.
Probably, to be honest. But on the TV side of things, that's where the other fun stuff came about. We got the first trailer for Ahsoka, and they announced that the show is coming in August, which is pretty great. Near the summertime, we're going to get this fantastic new show. And with it, we got a ton of first looks, and I want to bring those all up one by one. This shot of Sabine on the tower as the ship is flying away, it's either going to be a recreation of the finale scene from Star Wars Rebels or a mirroring scene where it's like the past is repeating itself and so on. They showed the main cast, right? Sabine Wren, played by Natasha Lee, and I'm going to butcher her last name, Bordizzo. She is the female Mandalorian character who did a lot of the customization, the spray painting, the tagging. She was a very colorful, very fun character. She was also like essentially Ezra Bridger's love interest as that show went on. They showed us Ezra Bridger for the first time. For Iman Esfandi is officially playing Ezra Bridger. This was a fun one. Hera Syndulla has been officially revealed as Mary Elizabeth Winstead, the very lovely actress who's married or in a lifelong committed relationship to our Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ewan McGregor. And then we got some other fun ones, right? We got the bad guys shown off for the first time. Oh, and of course the lovely Chopper and his little horribleness. But the big ones, we got the new villains. Baylan Skoll, played by Ray Stevenson. And people are still kind of questioning, is that an orange lightsaber or a red one, or is it just bad CGI? Who knows? And
Who knows? That Game of Thrones dude is going to chop people's heads off, and it's going to be fabulous.
So he's actually not, I don't think he's from Game of Thrones. I don't think Ray Stevenson was in Game of Thrones, but he was in that show, Rome. He's also no stranger to Star Wars himself. He actually was in, he did voice work for the Clone Wars and Rebels as Gar Saxon, I think. Gar Saxon. He was a Mandalorian, and he repeatedly kept coming back. And now he's either a dark fallen Jedi or a new Sith. And with him, we have his apprentice, Shin Hati, which is Ukrainian actress Ivana Hakno.
She's
I don't know how
got
to
to
pronounce
be
her
a
last name.
bad guy. Look at those eyes. You don't
No,
have eyes like that.
we know they're both bad guys because they're attacking and killing people in these trailers. And in this trailer, we also saw an Inquisitor, but I didn't get a screen cap of that one. But with that, we got this fantastic shot of Grand Admiral Thrawn. And we didn't see his face, but we do know that Lars Mikkelsen is playing Thrawn, and he actually did the voice of Thrawn in the Star Wars Rebels cartoon. So he's actually reprising his animated role. There were some leaked photos of the trailer that showed his face, and it looks just like him with blue skin, red eyes, and
I was about to say, as long as they put the prosthetics on the forehead and use the animation's hairline, great. He's going to sound exactly like him.
I mean, you don't need to. I mean, he's already got the facial structure. You just need to put the hair on him and make the eyes red. I mean, he's fine. And Thrawn, of course, was one of the biggest standouts because Thrawn was a character that was front and center into our childhoods during the Heir to the Empire storylines, where Thrawn was like the new big bad, the new Tarkin. And when they canonized this character and then readapted his story for Rebels and showed him being a key player into the birth of the Empire, and now we know that he's going to be essentially part of the birth of the First Order, I'm kind of all for it, right? I mean, it sounds exciting that he's back, and I'm loving it. So that was a very fun trailer. We also have first look. They didn't release the trailer for the Skeleton Crew show, and this show is what's featuring with Jude Law, kind of in the bottom there, with a handful of little rascals.
Is it going to be a Lost in Space show with all those kids?
I don't think so, to be honest. So with the new show, this show is also part of the current timeline. Sorry, I was trying to pull up some info on it. This character, word is that it's actually coming this year. It's supposed to be, even though Ahsoka is coming in August, this is probably going to be our December show. So this will be the end of the year that we finish up with Star Wars. They also showed off some new stuff for Andor.
I understand what a skeleton crew is. What is the show about? Or we don't know.
Okay. It takes place after the events of Return of the Jedi. It takes place during the same time frame of Mandalorian. Let me see what other details they've released on it, because it's been very under wraps.
I'm going to say it right now. This show's going to have Ewoks. Those kids are going to go hang out with Ewoks for sure.
So what we know is that Jude Law's character is rumored to be a Jedi that's been in hiding. Probably one of the younglings that escaped Order 66 and has been like throughout the entirety of the timeline. He's just kind of suppressed his force, which is something that a lot of characters have done. We do know basically they pitched it as a coming of age story for a lot of this younger cast, and it deals with a Jude Law's character assembling the skeleton crew for a certain mission. Everything is severely under wraps right now, so we really don't know anything except for the cast. We know that Kathleen Kennedy is producing it. John Watts from the Spider-Man movies is executive producing and directing some of it, and Jude Law is the main character. Like, we don't know a lot about this show.
I like Jude Law on TV. He's fabulous in The Young Pope and The New Pope.
Yeah, he's just a fantastic writer, like actor in general, and seeing him jump onto Star Wars is kind of a cool bit, because I mean, I'm very hypercritical of Marvel and the Miss Marvel movie, but he was probably the best part of that Miss Marvel movie. Was
sure, and and he's doing a lot of heavy lifting in that movie. He's not the problem with that movie. That is what was given to him, and he did the best he could with it.
Oh, he did great with what he had, but he didn't have a lot.
Yeah. So, I'm excited to see that character. I hope they plug him back into the Force, and I hope they do it a lot faster than what they did with Obi-Wan.
Yeah, Obi-Wan was. I liked a lot of Obi-Wan, and there's a fan movie that a fan is actually editing that show into a 3-hour movie. I'm really looking forward to it because it's exactly what we should have gotten instead of the 6 or 7 episodes of mostly filler leading into some great moments.
100%. And you know, it's funny, as you said, all of it's filler earlier on. I don't feel as much of this Mandalorian show as filler, but boy, was that Obi-Wan show just so much of it you could have done nothing with, and makes me sad that that was the final product we got.
Yeah. The other big announcements, Star Wars Visions Season 2 is debuting on May the 4th of this year. So very soon.
I love
They
it.
showed off some of the animating team, and it honestly, the trailer is gorgeous. And that claymation episode from the Wallace and Gromit team looks super fun. I like that it's becoming now a global animation team and not just Japan. So that's kind of cool. Um, it looks great. My only bummer was that I know when they announced when they did season 1 and they showed it off and everyone was super excited about it and we all fell in love with certain episodes and the creators said yes we will make follow-ups. I didn't see any of those follow-ups in this one, so maybe Star Wars Visions 3 will have those follow-ups.
You know what though? I think it will, because if there was claymation involved, these projects were probably had to be put into start as soon as the other show finished. So absolutely, give them a little bit more time. And a lot of the big studios that worked on those first visions, are animation studios that work on other big projects. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like Trigger, I'm sure, is working on something right now. They
Yeah.
can come back again for Visions 3.
One thing, the one that looked really cool was the team who made that Kubo and the Two Strings animated feature. There was one of their shorts that was in this, and it looked gorgeous. So I'm all down for that. So
Do people sleep on Visions? Did people not watch Visions? Did
I
you
don't
at
know.
home did not watch Visions?
I
Visions was
marathoned
really
it.
great.
I marathoned it in like the 3 hours it took to marathon it. It was fantastic. And then lastly, the other big little bitty was the Bad Batch, which has been phenomenal this season. And mind you, the Bad Batch, I wish the Clone Wars and Rebels had the animation team behind the Bad Batch, because some of these episodes are so good looking that I'm just like, why are people sleeping on this show? This show is getting a third and final season, which is going to wrap up its story. And the story that they've set up in this second season means season 3 is going to be insane. They went full deep into the cloning stuff, the force cloning, and there's so much. Honestly, so much.
You have to get into that, because I mean that's also what's going to be set up in. I mean, that is not what the First Order was using. Weren't they using little clone baby slaves, kid soldiers? Finn's a child soldier.
Yeah, they were doing a lot of creepy stuff. So you got a lot of funness in this show that's going to pay off very quickly. Another fun little reveal is for the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi. Return of the Jedi itself is returning to theaters on April 28th, so in about a little under 2 weeks.
Show us the poster.
You want to? Okay, yeah, the poster. I loved this poster, and Disney has this tendency of releasing these posters online for like limited run for people to buy. I'm going to hang that poster in my theater room. That is a gorgeous Return of the Jedi poster.
I'm trying to think. It's the centerpiece of the movie. I'm trying to think if there's anything it's missing. I feel like the original poster, the ones from when we were kids, shows the big battle. Right? There's There's no Millennium Falcon on there anywhere, but like it's a great poster.
It's a great poster, and it does also kind of like. I'm gonna have to get up and grab something real fast. It reminds me of my 40th anniversary Empire poster that I have in my office.
What does that look like?
Oh, I have the Japanese one. I love it. It's hanging up on my wall. This gorgeous beauty.
Okay, but like that's a better poster than the poster you just showed me.
It's such a good poster. I love this poster.
Yeah, there's something about those silhouettes that are very striking.
Oof, yeah, so good. I have to hang that back up now. I pulled it off the wall. But no, I know that a lot of people are very hypercritical of Star Wars, and Star Wars Celebration was nothing but wins for me. Like, I loved it.
Can I ask you about the Asuka show?
The what?
The Ahsoka show.
Ahsoka, yeah.
In Ahsoka, is she going to make it to this movie, or is she going to be killed along her journeys? Do we know how she ends? Has that ever been hinted at?
From what I understand, she's going to survive this show, but it's going to reestablish her as a Jedi. So she's not going to be walking the way of a fallen Jedi or a Force-using outcast. She will return to the fold as a Jedi. So one thing that I thought was very cool was it possibly me just reading too much into it, but in Rebels, there was a uh, a moment in Rebels where they did something truly weird and amazing, and it was I think they called it the Beyond, and it was this place that time did not exist and allowed essentially time travel to exist within it. And they did some really cool stuff with this stuff in Rebels, and what it looked like was the scene in the trailer where you have Ray Donovan's character. I think that's that place.
Them trying to go back and change time or something like that.
Yeah, because we know that that place was supposed to exist in this show, and with Ray Stevenson there in that fighting scene, it looked like that's where he was fighting her. Because when you see both shots of her and him back and forth, it very much reminded me of the look of that place.
Listen, if they change any part, we just got a timeline. If they change the timeline in any major way, people are going to have a riot.
I don't think they are. It was called The World Between Worlds.
Mm.
And this, let me pull up some images for you just so you can get an idea. It was probably the punitive episode of this show. And this season, I mean, this show did something truly weird with this. And when I pulled this up and you see what I'm talking about, like this is what I think it is, right? See those white lines kind of just floating in nothingness.
Mm-hmm.
In Rebels, it looked kind of the same. That was when Ezra and Ahsoka were traveling in those worlds. And then you had, let's see if I can find another shot, because there was one spot where they were actually viewing. There we go. Here's a good one. Let me pull it up on a new tab. I'm just going to present it so that we can see it.
Image processing loading. Now loading image.
So
yeah, there's
So, and that was one spot. That's actually how Ezra saved Ahsoka in the show, because she supposedly died in the battle between Vader and Ahsoka, and then he witnessed the battle from a different angle, and while the temple was collapsing, he grabs her and pulls her through. So that was pretty cool.
I love in a galaxy far, far away. They just have a regular ass bird as one of the constellations.
Yeah, just a normal bird.
But that space dog, the space wolf, looks crazy.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff in there that was really cool.
Okay.
But honestly, I'm all for it. I love that. If these villains, right? If these villains are hunting down Ahsoka so they can get to the world between worlds, if Baylan and Shin are attacking, hunting her solely for that knowledge, that makes a very compelling story. Especially with the fact that Rebels ended with Ezra Bridger taking Thrawn and shooting himself into the dark regions of the universe, and now Thrawn is back. Ezra should be back too. And we already saw the space whales in the first episode of The Mandalorian, so you know they're hinting at this stuff being front and center. I love the idea that Ahsoka is a fallen Jedi who's going to earn her way back into it, and I hope that Ezra is the one who brings her back, because Ezra's character was a Jedi who was trained by one of the last surviving Order 66 apprentices, and his master truly walked the way of the Grey Jedi. And you saw some cool stuff with this character, and his lightsabers were just really fun. His gun lightsaber was super cool.
We're in TV. I want to talk about, what were the other two movie projects that were announced?
Oh, we talked about those: the Mandalorian crossover spinoff, the prequel, and the Reyes movie. Those are the big three.
Okay, what is this Mandalorian then? Is it going to be the finale of the show?
Well, it could be the finale of the show.
Because then because I feel like people want to see The Mandalorian on film, but aren't going to want to see it if they have to watch 4 seasons. I mean, you probably need to watch the Boba Fett show as well. So that's another season on top of this.
Well, I mean, I've always seen movies that spawn off of TV shows. Like the X-Files movie was essentially like episode 4.5, right? Like it was like right in the middle of 2 seasons. I see that them doing something that, what if this movie is the rise of the First Order, and you have the Mandalorian and his army of with Bo-Katan and the army of Mandalorians, and then you have Boba Fett and his criminal underworld, and you have Ahsoka and the Jedi's, and you have Luke, and you have all these things. I firmly think that Luke is going to be a center player in this movie, which is going to be gorgeous to see because his scene in the Book of Boba Fett was immaculate, and they finally figured out how to do it correctly. So I could see them do some very cool stuff in this movie. I could see them bring Leia and Han back for this movie too. So we could see something insane.
They just up-resed Harrison Ford's face. If you haven't seen the new Indiana Jones trailer, making him look like young man Indiana Jones. It's literally just his face on his face, so it looks great. But it was like, oh boy, yeah, if you're doing this for that movie, what else could you plug these JPEG files into?
Yeah, just to show it up. Here is. Let me grab the image because I didn't think you were going to bring it up, but let's bring it up anyways.
I mean, Harrison Ford is Indiana Jones is Star Wars on Earth. Okay, like it's all connected to my child brain.
So there is Temple of Doom Indiana Jones, and there's the young Indiana Jones from Indiana Jones 5 that they did with the special effects.
That's Harrison Ford's old man body, though, right?
I think so.
yeah, I think that's his slumped over body, but okay, great, okay.
One thing that and this is just a side tangent because I want to get into it. Everyone who's saying that Indiana Jones is going to die in this movie, I hope not. It's fully possible, right? It's fully possible. But the reason why I hope it's not is because the little nerd in me, and you remember this too, the young Indiana Jones Chronicles, that was the show that we watched on like History Channel when we were younger. There was one episode where you saw old Indiana Jones, and he has an eye patch, and he's like old as shit. So, I hope at the very least that Indiana Jones finally retires and throws in the towel and loses his eye in this movie to recanonize everything that they already previously canoned.
Indiana Jones will not die. Our Lord and Savior will send an angel and he will go straight to heaven. His soul he will say, hey, buddy, you fought the good fight. You get to skip all of this. Come right on up.
Yeah.
Listen, he did drink from the cup. So, I don't know. Whatever you want to do with him, Indiana Jones eventually will have to leave the public eye and we won't know. But I could very well see him being like the Grail Guardian or something.
That'd be interesting. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, the Grail was lost and his immortality went with him after he crossed the seal. But
that's true.
I also think that the reason he survived that stupid fridge scene is because he had the Grail made him durable.
Listen, he drank from the Grail to make sure it was good before he poured it on his dad, and then the Pepto-Bismol fizzed everywhere.
Yeah,
Alka-Seltzers.
Anyways, Star Wars is back front and center, and I'm super excited, man.
What is the time frame? Is this going to be going up against James Gunn DC movies?
It might. We do know that these 3 movies that are currently in pre-production should be occurring in the next few years. So there's very possible that like in 2025 we'll get a Star Wars movie and Superman and all that fun stuff. So we might have some really great years of cinema ahead of us.
Do we know the year? Do we know the order that these projects are being worked on?
We don't. We know that they're all worked on simultaneously because they're all unrelated to each other, but we don't know when they're releasing.
Okay. I've also heard talks of the Childish Gambino wanting to come back and come play his character again.
Yes.
Now that's not even official then, right? Like we don't get to see that on a stage anytime soon. That's just he's saying he's interested.
No, it was actually, he talked about that. The long rumored Lando TV show is not dead. And that, he has been talking to Kathleen Kennedy and a few other people, and it's still kind of trucking along. So maybe in the next few years, when he's done with Atlanta, when he's done with the Community movie and all that stuff, maybe he'll actually sit down and wouldn't it just be fantastic to have?
It should just be Cloud City. It should just be him trying to run a day-to-day of a small mining operation here on the outskirts of the universe.
What I would think would be really fun would be Billy D. Williams talking to that girl that he takes at the end of Rise of Skywalker, who in the behind the scenes stuff was revealed to be his daughter, which is why why it was so significant. And he's telling her stories of his younger years. And it's kind of like a anthology series of just Lando being Lando in his younger years. And it's just like, there's one time I did that. And then it like goes back and you see Childish Gambino being Lando. And it would just be a fun, almost Star Wars Tales of the Jedi-ish kind of a show where it's just random scenarios where he's just explaining himself, and that would just be a lot of fun.
Well, and if you set up the show as grandpa telling stories, you could also have a magical surrealism to these things. You know what I mean? Like, it just worked out well and I got away like that. And maybe we see the truth of what it was, but we see grandpa's sparkly eye version of it.
Kind of like How I Met Your Mother, where they did like stuff that's super unrealistic, and then they're like, no, that's not really what happened, but we're telling you anyways.
Right.
He had a sandwich. No, it was a bong. We knew what that was.
Right. It's always sandwiches.
But no, I would love them to do that kind of a lighthearted show like that. That'd be fun.
Do you think we're going to see in the Mandalorian movie, what is the fight we haven't seen? We've seen small scale of all of these things. You think we'll see like the war where they like come run at each other, where we see little Mandalorians flying at a battlefield?
I could see that, like the rise of the First Order kind of thing, because you have all these pieces of the New Republic, right? And you have that one fella who's basically like, it's coming, and then you see the birth of the Resistance with him, right? And then you see the Mandalorian army siding with him to fight the new Empire. And
this would be a great way. We're talking about redemptions. This would be a great way to make Phasma cool again.
Yeah, it would.
Because they just built her up as it's like bad wrestling. They build her up so high in that first movie. The second movie, tear her to nothing. It was all smoke and mirrors. I would love to see Phasma going head to head with the Mandalorian, and she'll come back. She'll do it. She's down.
So Gwendolyn Christie, for people who are unaware, she is 44. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So they could have a 20-something Captain Phasma get the armor for the first time and go nuts.
Yeah. Just see her stabbing Mandalorians in the neck and stuff like that.
Yeah. Because her armor is made out of starship armor.
Right. She was so cool and nothing ever happened with her.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff they can do with this movie, and I'm really excited at the possibilities. Could be a lot of fun.
You've already speculated, but I'll have you do it again. I guess they're building up to an Avengers Endgame, right? That's the goal.
Actually,
they're gonna build up to a thing where all of these things have to get together. Here's a question: when do we get Book of Boba Fett season 2?
So it's unclear if we're getting Book of Boba Fett season 2 or if he's just going to go straight into this movie. Big rumors were saying that Obi-Wan Kenobi is not getting a second season,
right?
But Boba Fett is, and that's what the rumors are. So I hope that we get another Book of Boba Fett, and that Boba Fett, I would like that one to deal with Boba Fett dealing with the sins of his past more so than the first one. So you have the flashbacks of him as like Empire Strikes Back era Boba Fett, where he's just being a monster, and like people are gunning for him because of the stuff he did as bounty hunter.
They built all those sets. I guarantee you we're getting another season. There's no way they ripped down Jabba's palace set. That's all still up. They can do stuff there. And then flashback world, Taylor, don't tease me about that stuff. That's the stuff we've wanted forever. To get that would be fantastic.
I want to see him in the gray suit with the little green cape and the Wookiee braids. I want that.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of that. And him just flying around shooting people and like gunning people down and being like, they said alive or dead. Like just like gunning people down. I want Boba Fett being Boba Fett. Because I'm okay with the redeemed and reformed Boba Fett if we get the context of what he had to go through to do that. And I want to see the context. I want to see more of that. I want to see the stuff that made everyone love Boba Fett when we were kids because of the expanded universe. Because if you just watch the movies for what they are, Boba Fett's like 6 minutes of screen time and he's not that cool. Yeah. But if you knew anything about the expanded universe, he was awesome. And I want that Boba Fett back.
Well, I'm excited that there's even Star Wars news because all of the stuff's going to go hide away and go start working on it. And I can't wait for the stuff to start. Can't wait to see trailers for all these fun things.
I'm just excited to see Star Wars again in the theaters. It's been a while and I'm ready to see Star Wars on the big screen again.
See, I think, listen, none of the other franchises have taken, except for Indiana Jones, have taken this long of a break. And it's like, wow, I miss it. It was
Yeah.
supposed to be every year, and that did not happen.
Yeah. So I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay, it's coming.
All right. But on that note, thank you everyone for joining us. Before we do our standard closure, I want to say if you want to help us support us and keep the lights on with us, head over to patreon.com/theculturenerd. And as we talked about last week, we're on the final stretch for the Batman Beyond Year One Kickstarter. Those guys over there making this film are awesome dudes, fantastic work that they're putting together, and I cannot wait for you all to see what they're coming up with. So scan that QR code, head over to their Kickstarter. Even if you want to donate just a couple of bucks here and there and just help them out, just do so, because we've been wanting a Batman Beyond movie as long as the show has been out there. This is the time. So don't sleep on this.
Yeah, go throw them a couple of bucks. Let's make this thing happen.
Yeah, because it's too cool not to exist. And they're doing everything from the volume tech to do the digital green screens, and the suit looks awesome. Ten and Jack look awesome. You guys need to please don't sleep on this project. If you want Batman to Beyond to exist in film form of any capacity, go check this Kickstarter out. Big thank you to our Patreon supporters who do currently support us. I've been your host. Michael is always my co-host. And for those of you at home and want to harass me, thank you for joining us. Scan that QR code and bug me on the socials, because I am there and I am the person behind the social. So you can harass me all you want.
Go harass him. He loves it. Go harass him and enjoy it. Go have good times on the internet.
All right. Good time. Well, thank you all for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Bye.